Hey guys, Joseph here. Now in this video, I'm going to be talking about basically just 10 bits of advice I can give to new players. This is basically some, just 10, things which, new players I think, should take in mind. And it'll probably, if you do these, it'll A, make you probably a better player in the long run. And B, probably actually make it so that better players will probably stop, having a go at you for, making simple mistakes. The first one, in my opinion, this is probably the most important advice here. Build rally points. There's a reason why you'll see every squad I have has at least one engineer. The only real exception is like maybe a sniper squad, but you can see here. If I go into the axis, let me go on my axis. Engineer, 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 and not an engineer, but he's too low leveled. But engineer, too low leveled for an engineer, but it will have two engineers, and this will have at least one engineer. The the reason being is that engineers are useful for multiple reasons. You can build fortifications, you can build, ammo boxes, but critically, they can build rally points, and this is by far the most important part of any team. Games are won and lost on the team's rallies. Now, some teams, for example, will just go, "Oh, I don't need a rally. I forgot I still got this fucking hammer. I might as well just chuck it at this guy." Some people will be like, "Oh, but you don't need to build a rally. Oh, I just need to get a teammate to build a rally." You need at least 2-3 rallies at every time. If you don't have that, go out your way to build one. The reason this pisses people the fuck off. It pisses me off when I have to go out and build a rally. Now, I don't mind building a rally every now and again, but the problem is, and this goes on to a point I'll talk about later, it ruins one of the key objectives of the game. Now, on some maps, you can get away with not building a rally. For example, there's parts on Ruins of Vox, for example, using Ruins of Vox for an example. Between the second point, from after you've taken the first point, so the second and third point, you don't need to build a rally if you're attacking until after the second point. Really, after the third point. So in the fourth and fifth point, that's when you need to start building rallies. And of course, the first point. But there's maps like, for example, everything in Tunisia. I'm just going to go... Oh, crap, one. I'm just going to go on to the custom games to show this. But there are some maps, like, for example, D-Day, Le Brie, Omir, pretty much everything in Stalingrad and Tunisia. The Foundry maps, in, lots of Moscow maps, Birch Grove, Fortified District, Bellow Lake, Quarry, Vescovo Village. These are maps where the spawn points are so far away from each other that you need to build rallies. The only exception I'd say to this rule is CeeLo, where is the armored train maps, because with that one, you have to run a lot, but you can't really build a rally anywhere on those maps. Yeah, and let's talk about number 2, which is sniping. Now, I'm just going to show a clip here, courtesy of Quadro, and this will show, exactly what I mean by sniping.
Oh, it's my teammate. Oh, we took the point. Oh, it's my teammate.
As you can see from that clip, yeah, sniping, it's fun, don't get me wrong. I like sniping, and I do use snipers quite a bit. You can see here I've got some Garans here. And if you saw my Stalingrad video, I was using my sniper quite a bit during that. However, there is a difference between Like, with the Stalingrad one, that's because I had no other choice. And I had to use a sniper. I mean, if I had a choice, I would be... And even with that Stalingrad video, I was still pushing, taking the point with the sniper. And I was just no-scoping with the sniper rifle. Whereas, you know, in other situations, you know, I'm attacking objectives with the sniper. What most new players will do is that they'll sit 5 miles in the back and they'll just snipe. Oh, look, there's a guy. Doesn't matter if it's a friend or foe, they'll just pull the trigger. And this is just aggravating for you know, because you're not playing the objective, you're doing nothing for the team, and you're being more of a nuisance than anything for both teams. The other team's going to be pissed off because you're just sniping them constantly, and your team's going to get pissed off because you're not playing the objective, which actually links back to my next point. Play the fucking objective. I've made a video which was an impromptu rant where I literally just turned on my recording software after I was building a rally, just screaming at my teammates because they were playing, because it was like watching Atletico Madrid play football. Basically, you know, having 9 players at the back, essentially. That's what I mean. Now, this was just... It's god-awful, you know. You're trying to play the game, and then you have... Your entire team is just parked at the back, away from the objective. It doesn't matter if you're attacking. It doesn't matter if you're defending. You should always play the objective. No ifs, no buts. Play the objective. You will have a better, you know, you'll have a better win. You know, you'll have, because here's a few reasons why. One, you get 50% more XP per kill on the objective. That's if you're attacking an objective, defending an objective. If you're on the objective and you get a kill, or you kill someone who's on the objective, you get 50% more XP for that kill. So it'll go from, instead of 30, it goes to 45. And that doesn't sound like much, but that shit adds up, okay, over the course of the game. Second, a win gives you 1.5% more XP. So basically, you get 50% more XP, which, of course, stacks with boosters, it stacks with the premium, it stacks... Because basically, the way it works is, you take the base score, if you have premium, it'll times it by 2, and then you times that by 0.5. By 1.5, and that was with the... And, of course, that adds up with battle heroes as well, and then that is times by... If you have any battle heroes, that gets times in as well. So... And then the boosters take effect. So, yeah, you get, you know, more bang for your buck for playing the objective and for just winning. So, yeah. Also, if you do take the objective, you get a lot of XP from taking objectives. And, yeah, you probably should take the objective more or less, you know, when you're playing. The next thing is vehicle use. Now, I get it. You know, new players, they see this new shot, you know, they level up their campaign. They get to, you know, they see this new shiny vehicle, you know. I mean, bad example is the Puma. But, you know, you see a plane, you see this, oh, it's great. You know, you see this new shiny vehicle. Honestly, I'm glad that they did this. But always go through the tank and aircraft tutorial before, same with the engineer tutorial, before even attempting tanks or aircraft. And also know when and where to do it. Sometimes there's times where you don't need to use tanks or aircraft, and new players will just do this. What you're doing at this point is you're actually hurting the team, because if there's a player who wants to use an aircraft or wants to use a tank and can't because you're hoarding it because you want to get like a 5, you want to just, you know, get 1 or 2 kills and you're hoarding the slot, that will just really, that just pisses you'll piss off your teammate a lot more, and it has the adverse effect of if you're not contributing much to the game, then the other team, you're basically playing a 9v10. It's basically you're being the 11th man for the other team. You know, it's not rocket science. I'm not saying shun vehicles. Obviously, sometimes having some guy in, a BF-110 or a 410 or a P-38, sometimes they could be the big deciding factor for a game. But sometimes, you just, if you don't know how to, don't know how to use a plane, don't know how to use a tank, or don't use it effectively, you could be doing more harm than good for your team. The fifth one is actually, basically, it's kind of relating to it, but it's, upgrading your squad. Now, I'm going to go in a little bit more depth later in the video, but basically, this is just more of a general guide, what to do with this. Now, most people will always go for some reason, go for the yellow tree, right? They go for the gold tree for some reason. They're like, oh, I've got to go get these max levels. Stop. Don't do this. Do not do the yellow tree first. The yellow tree should be reserved for the final one. This should be reserved as the final upgrade path you should go down. The first one you should always go down is the blue tree. And you'll see this a lot if you look in any of my soldiers. Look, I'm just going to show you my Stalingrad. Oh. You can see here, I've immediately gone down the blue tree for snipers. I've immediately gone down the blue tree for the regular squad. Obviously, even with this tanker squad, I immediately went down the blue tree. Why? Because the blue tree gives you a lot of benefits. One, these. Squad XP. Basically, the more leveled up in the blue tree that you have, the more XP your squad gains. Basically, it doesn't contribute to campaign XP, but it will make it so that you can level up the squads quicker. And this means you can get better squads, which in turn means you can get more soldiers, or, you can get better tailor-made soldiers. And it means that you can get to the red tree and to the yellow tree even easier. Now, obviously, because this is a starter squad, this one starts out relatively upgraded in the blue and red tree. But but when you're talking about, other squads, when you're talking about, just what's the most important thing, I always say the most important thing you can get is always, always, always go down the blue tree. Grab the XP upgrades, then grab the squad size upgrades, then start grabbing the other stuff, like the different classes of soldier. Now, sometimes it can be better to grab, it really depends on what soldier it is. For example, with the flamethrowers, I recommend grabbing the, as you can see here, I've gone for a bit of a hybrid here with the flamethrowers. I've gone for squad size before grabbing this final XP. But the reason being is that grabbing a flamethrower and an extra assaulter, as well as more squad size, actually does a little bit more for the squad and can be more beneficial in the long run. Now, after you've done this, now if you don't know, with a couple other classes, you can actually get, like with engineers, you can get AT guns, AA guns, and with the engineer 2, you can get machine guns. With the radio operators, you can get frequent artillery and smoke artillery. So those are quite important as well to grab. But after you've done both of those, you should go down into the red tree. Now, the way you should do this is go assaulter ranks all the way down until you get to this. Now, at this point, you should grab this. Now, honestly, it's up to you which one you grab. Do you want, honestly, this one? There's no right or wrong answer here. Now, some classes do, like radio operators, and I believe Mortarmen. Yeah, Mortarmen, radio operators, pilots, and a couple more only have one or the other. Like, for example, look at radio operator, it has secondary weapon slot. Flamethrower doesn't have it at all because both slots are already unlocked. Engineers have backpack and stuff like that, so on and so forth. But most classes will have switching between a backpack or a secondary weapon, with the final one being, of course, this. Always get this red tree and then get the pistol. Honestly, the pistol you can actually wait until last, and you can get all of the gold tree or yellow tree done before even getting the pistol. The pistol's just there for a little bit of extra side grade if you want it. Now, I will have to say that all of these are for only for certain soldiers. For example, this is only this red tree. All of this is for Assaulter 1s. So and it goes for all squads in the campaign. So for example, if I have an Assaulter 1 and I throw it in this Flamethrower squad like I've got here, this Assaulter 1 is still going to have, is still going to be having the effects of the red tree from this squad. Now that's another thing. So red tree affects all soldiers of a certain, all soldiers of a certain skill, whereas blue tree only affects a squad. So if you see stuff like frequent artillery and, stuff like that, it only affects that squad, not the entirety not if you throw it into another unit. So for example, if you throw a Raider operator into a rifle squad, which I don't have because I don't like Raider operators, but if you do that, then you'll get the Raider operator will not have smoke artillery and won't have access to the the 4 times cooldown, so it would have to be 4 minutes instead of 1 minute. Anyways, let's move on to the next one, which is actually very important in my opinion: marking. Now, if you don't know, marking is basically just hitting. By default, it's V, but I've actually got it. So if I go on my controls, it's somewhere. I think it might be on weapons, but no, I can't remember where it is. But marking is essentially you basically fire a marker down where you see the enemy. Now, some of these are very... this is, here you go, interface, mark enemy. I've got it defaulted to left click, which is my fire button. Now, what this means is that when I fire a marker. So, everyone knows where the enemies are. Some people, I'm not the only person who does this, but that's a good method. And if we're being honest, some people, obviously the V button as well works quite well. But for some people, pressing, it's very important, I can't speak. Now, obviously, for some people, the V button is pretty good as well. So, yeah, it doesn't matter which one you do. Basically, always mark. Mark tanks, AT guns. If you can see a rally but you can't get to it, try and mark the rally. Or mark around the rally point. Groups of enemies. They are huge benefits for the entire team. And it's honestly just a good benefit. Something to do for you should get in the habit of doing. If you don't want to get into the habit of doing it, just do what I did and just rebind your rebind it to the shoot key. Coming in for number 7 is something which I think is actually really, this is something that isn't explained much, but it's silver orders. Basically, don't spend silver orders unnecessarily, especially in the early game where silver orders are very scarce. For example, something like the Manndecker or the Mats. Yeah, they're decent rifles, but why would you buy them when you could just use a Kar 98K? Another thing is, don't just insanely spam out different types of soldiers. For example, let's say you want to use a... let's say you want to get a assault, right? Let's say you've got an assault squad. You should only really need 4 assaulters for that assault squad. As you can see here, I've got 4 assaulters on each assault squad. So you don't have to go out and go like, oh, look, I'm going to buy, buy another assaulter. Buy another assaulter, even after you've got that 4. Only buy soldiers when you need them. The same goes with weapons. Only buy them when you need them, and for some weapons, you don't need to even, you can skip them. Weapons like the FNAB and the M1918 and even the MP40, you can avoid entirely. And even stuff like the MP35, ZK383, and even the Beretta. There's a few weapons like the MP43 which, if you have them, if you have the funds to get them, grab them at all costs. But yeah, don't spend them unnecessarily. Don't buy pistols. Like, obviously pistols are great, don't get me wrong. I love pistols. But just don't buy them, if you don't need to use them. Don't buy, 50 Sturm pistols. I know the Sturm pistol's good, but don't buy 50 of the bloody things. If you don't like... Also, don't crank out a weapon that you know you're going to hate. Like, if, for example, let's say, I don't know, you buy the Kar 98K with the shooting cup, God help you if you do, and then you realise this is a piece of shit and you spent about 50 silver orders on this. God help you if you've actually done this. But, when you could have spent them on, you could have saved them for FGs, for example, or you could have spent them on Gavir 43s. There's a few, just don't be super conservative with your silver orders. Obviously, if you see something and and you need it, then, don't be stingy, buy it. But just don't fall into the trap of buying a billion things that you do not need and are never going to use ever. The same goes with the equipment. Like, if you never, most of the times you don't really need to buy anything from here, especially, hand grenades and Molotovs. Now, some like mines and the backpacks are really good, but others are, and like the axe and the grenade pouch here, aren't really worth it in my opinion. Anyways, let's move on to the next point, which is number 8, which is weapons transfers. Now, if you don't know, if a weapon is on any campaign, let's just say, we'll go over to here. If it's on another campaign, the weapon's on another campaign, you can actually transfer it over for 0 cost. Now, bad example here, but I'll use Normandy because I've got a lot of weapons in Normandy I can transfer over. Take, for example, the MG34. I could transfer this over to Berlin. Now, you have to unlock it in Berlin. And look at this. 2 silver orders. Now, going back to my previous point, remember that I said, silver orders are a bit precious. Look at 2 silver orders. I could get an MG34 in Berlin over instead of just buying an MG34 in Berlin. Now, and this goes both ways. I could transfer over, let's just put this in. I could transfer this, I could upgrade this for cheap here, and then transfer it over to Normandy. Which, that saves me silver orders in the long... It will even probably save you... It will even save you bronze orders if you do that. So, yeah. That's a good thing as well. Oh yeah, pro tip. Berlin has some really good stuff. Especially for Normandy. And for Moscow, Normandy and Stalingrad. You can actually... And even Tunisia to an extent. You can save some orders by getting some early... some weapons like the MG34... The MG42, the DP27 and stuff like that, and other weapons. You can get them for you can get them for cheap on Berlin, and then transfer them over for less of the cost. Now, for some weapons like the FG or the or the MP43, which are very late game weapons, don't bother. Transferring them over because they're going to cost the exact same regardless, and you're going to be spending more bronze orders on doing that. But for weapons like, say, the MG34, which is, like I showed you there, you know, can be transferred over and is cheaper on, you know, on Berlin to level up and upgrade, you know, it's better to do it like that. You can also transfer over gold order weapons like the Kurtz. You can transfer them over weapons like the RMN. You can transfer stuff like the Irma EMP. You can probably the VMP here. You can probably do the same thing with the suppressed weapons, stuff like that. As long as it's in another campaign, you know, make good use of that. At number 9, and this is a very important thing as well, and that is to really just, if you want to grind up the game quick, just focus on one campaign. Now, I'm not saying, you know, just, you know, that, you know, just play one campaign and that's it, and then give up the game. I'm saying if you want to, you know, level up quick, focus on a campaign for some levels. Now, I would say the best thing to do is to go into each campaign, play a few matches, and then figure out which campaign's best for you. For example, if you like, you know, if you like the long-range engagements, play Moscow or Tunisia. If you like close range, Berlin or Stalingrad. If you like a mixture of both, Normandy. Or, you know, or you play whatever interests you the most. For example, if you're interested in Normandy beach landings, play Normandy, yada yada yada. I would recommend, however, focusing on one campaign and then focusing on that campaign until you've either A, gotten to level 20, because that's usually when the grind will really start getting ultra grindy. Like you can see here, you know, this is when the game starts getting incredibly grindy. You can see, you know, like 4 levels on, that's when you get to the 18, you know, 180k requirements. But, you know, sticking to one campaign and just, you know, playing that one campaign is pretty good. You know, it's good for ensuring that, well, A, you don't get bored, because, or you don't get, like, I don't know how to say it. Sticking to one campaign means that you can learn that campaign, you can master it, and then you can transfer your stuff over. For example, if you choose Berlin first, God help you, you know, when you get to later campaigns, you can transfer over your Berlin equipment that you're no longer using. For example, I mean, even here, I transferred over my MP40s to Berlin from Normandy when I wasn't using them. If you're using MG34s, you can transfer over this MG34, you know, and later MG42 for cheaper prices. Then, vice versa, from Normandy to Berlin. Also, you know, you'd have some experience with the weapon, so you'd know how to use it. Anyways, my final point, the final thing I'm making, number 10, is basically how to build a squad. Now, honestly, building a squad, is just dependent on your playstyle, and, you know, having as many squads as you want is basically dependent on your playstyle. Now, I would say, obviously, engineers are, you know, you should probably get an engineer in every squad. I would say that's the only guarantee you should have. But you should also get stuff like, you know, AT gunners and radio operators are still pretty decent. A sniper, maybe, if you like sniping. You know, assaulters over machine gunners. I chose machine gunners because machine gunners were OP, but yeah, you can, you know, stuff like that. Honestly, tailor out your squads. If you, for example, if you don't like sniping, don't pick a sniper squad. If you don't like, let's say you don't like flamethrowers, don't use a flamethrower squad. If you don't like mortars, well, if you like mortars, pick a mortar squad. But if you're if you actually have either, you know, if you're either normal or you have, you know, some semblance of dignity, then just pick anything else. If you like using Raider operators, pick a Raider operator squad. If you like using the anti-tank squad, pick an anti-tank squad. Now, I would recommend, because you're only going to get 3 levels originally. I did buy a couple. But with these, what you should have is an assaulter squad. You know, always have an assaulter squad, and then the other 2 squads should be up to you. But if you don't like assaulters, then maybe you can pick something else, obviously. I'd recommend assaulters because assaulters are probably they're the most fun squads you can play in the game, and they're probably the most effective squads. But still, I can understand why people wouldn't pick them. So, anyways, I'm gonna end the video here. Those are just my, just me talking about 10 tips to how to get better in Enlisted. Hope you guys have enjoyed. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video.